Wilson Rouse from Black from TV. Hello, folks. How's it going?
Hi.
Hola, sir. How are you?
Good. So, Channing, what did you want to do outside of the script to play this character and show a little humanity for him?
Outside of the script, I'm not really sure if I had a plan. As far as like coming into it, because I know Derek is probably one of the most. He is, I would say, the most obsessed with performance and acting and actors director that I've ever worked with. And I'd read how he had kind of gone about other movies with other actors, and I knew that we were going to go everywhere, and we were going to explore really what our Jeff was going to be. This character that we created is, yes, it is a real person that is, still in prison right now, that we talk to a lot, and we've all these things that happened in the movie really did happen. But I'm never gonna be Jeff. I never got to meet him in person, and so it's gonna be some strange sort of meld of me, Derek, and the real Jeff. And I brought some of my own experiences with my life and my daughter, into this. And I think I was just really open to the experience of getting to play with Kirsten and just everybody else, and so many amazing actors in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
LaKeith. I had no idea he was going to bring what he brought to it. Because when you read that character on the page, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot, like, I think, when Derek brought on LaKeith, I was like, oh, this is going to give it like a real character. Mm-hmm. And it gave me something to really go off of, because I didn't know who that person was. I've known a lot of military people, and I've never been in the armed forces, but I wondered who that person was going to be, that Jeff specifically, this person was going to be kind of subservient to and like look up to. And like LaKeith just came in and just nailed it. So I would never been able to like assume anything until I met him. Until I met Kirsten and really understood what she was going to do with Leigh, I couldn't have known. So I just came into it really open.
Talk to Leigh, obviously. Derek mentioned she's in the movie, So, how much did you talk about, so it's harder to play her, being that she's a real life person?
She came to set as well. Like, during a pretty heavy scene of mine, it ended up getting cut, but like, I think that what I admired the most in her is the grace she had for Jeff, even after all these years and what happened, how much love and compassion she talks with about him and the time they had together. So for me, that showed a lot about who she is as a human.
When Channing mentioned that, the script had you go everywhere, were you ready for a Magic Mike moment?
It was in the script. I don't think I was ready for exactly how long it was and what I was going to have to do and how they were going to shoot it. I thought we were going to shoot it a different way. I didn't really know how we were going to shoot it, because I was like, there's not very many angles that you can shoot and not, catch something here and there. So I definitely, on the day, I was like, how are we shooting this? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? How we got to know how we're going to shoot this. And we did. We figured it out. But it was a lot of takes, and yeah, it was messy. I can tell you that.
Everybody's going to get a thrill watching this. Obviously, they know, if you don't Wikipedia who this guy is to see how it plays out, you're going to have fun watching this movie to say, okay, are we rooting for this guy or not?
Yeah.
Congratulations on your roles. Congrats on the film.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Wilson Rouse from Black from TV. Hey, Derek, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Wilson?
Good. So what led to making this film and humanizing this character? This real life person.
Well, I had wanted to make a movie that felt like the movies I used to love growing up in the 80s and 90s, and I heard this story about this guy who was this hardened criminal that had robbed 45 McDonald's and locked people in a freezer, but gave them their jackets before they went in. And he was this Army veteran who broke out of prison, and he didn't hide in the woods and survive off of grubs and rainwater. He instead chose to hide inside a Toys R Us and eat baby food and Pedialyte. And thought there was a very contradictory character there. I thought that here was this criminal that had this heart. And I started talking to the real Jeff. He's in a maximum security prison in North Carolina, and I basically just listened to his story for years and years and years, and hundreds of hours, and I tried to talk to everyone in his life that would talk to me about him, and I just found this like consistent portrait. I had someone ask me one time, I was like, how can you take a criminal and make him so jovial like this? And I was like, well, Jeff is jovial. If you ever talk to Jeff on the phone, he's going to tell you a lot of jokes. He's going to be incredibly optimistic. This is a guy who, after the events of this movie, he got put 9 years in solitary confinement. And he still has this optimistic outlook on life. And I just wanted to, I guess that contrast, the contradiction of the character was what made me want to make the movie. It was at one point a tragedy, and another point a comedy. And if you think of comedy and tragedy faces, they're flip sides of the same coin. So I thought this movie could live in both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's his perspective. Did you get perspectives from any of the victims, even though no one, at least of course, we're not going to give any spoilers away unless you read it on Wikipedia what happened, what Jeff did. But, you're getting his perspective, you're telling his perspective, but you also want to pay respect to people that he did hold up,
100%.
that were in that freezer.
100%. And I did, I did talk to some of the people that he locked in the freezer. I talked to, and they all who are in the film, talk about like what a nice person he was, and like he was so polite. And I talked to the police that arrested him. And I talked to his mother, and I talked to the guy in the prison who drove the truck that he escaped up under. But the two people that were the most important people that I spoke to were Ron, the pastor of the church, and Leigh, his girlfriend. And before I spoke with each of them, I kind of had an assumption that they were going to feel betrayed, that they were going to be angry at Jeff, that they were going to be kind of embittered about their experience with him. But both of them talked about how Jeff was this unicorn that appeared in their life. And Leigh said that he was the greatest adventure of her life, and that she didn't regret a thing. And I talked to Ron one day, and I asked him, I said, well, first off, Ron and Leigh are both in the movie too. Leigh recently saw the film for the third time last night, and she said it was that Kirsten embodied her like perfectly, and that it was almost like watching a memory of what it was like, and that Channing was exactly who Jeff was. But before I could do that, I remember I asked Pastor Ron, I said, tell me about the Bible, because I wanted to hear from him, his view of the Bible. And he says, well, the Old Testament is about judgment, and the New Testament's all about grace, and that in his life he tries to err on the side of grace. And I thought to myself, well, here's a guy who's been judged very harshly by society and sentenced to 45 years in prison. And the judge that sentenced him to prison, I spent a lot of time with her. She's in the film as well. So I got her perspective on why she sent him to prison. But I felt like the movie should err on the side of grace and follow Ron's point of view. In my life, I have never met a hero, and I've never met a villain. I see them in movies all the time, but I've met a lot of people in life who have done heroic acts, and I've met a lot of people in life who've done villainous acts. And I think what I was most interested in this movie was to make a movie about a human being who made some bad choices and who is now paying the price of those bad choices, but still has the capacity of love.
What made Channing the right guy to play Jeff?
I think there's no one else but Channing for this guy. Channing is like a great action star. He's a great dramatic actor. He writes autobiographies of his life as a stripper. He's like an incredible comedian. And Jeff was like a huge fan of movies. And I think as Jeff was doing all these crazy, stupid things in his real life, I think he was imagining he was the star of his own movie. I think he was almost writing the screenplay as he was doing it. And I feel like Channing is like one of those few actors that could wear all those hats of all those different genres and do it in a way with so much heart. And yeah, when I last watched the movie, I was just so in awe of Channing. I remember on the last day of shooting, Kirsten Dunst told me, she was like, I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised at Channing. And I was like, I think you're right. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't surprised because I knew that he had it in him.
I know your work for some time, and I did see a couple of Easter eggs in there from stuff you've done. You know, like it's not casting, but a word or two in there. You know, and I'm like, okay, he throws it in there.
Uh-huh.
You know, so, at the end of the day, you know, obviously everybody's vying for attention, whether it's something in streaming or something is in the theaters. What's going to get an audience to see Roofman?
Oh, I think theater is like such an important experience for us. I've screened Roofman so many times as I've been making it, and I know that when I show it in a bigger theater, the movie works better. It's because when you're in a movie theater, I think you go on that shared experience. This movie is a bit of a roller coaster ride. This movie isn't escapism. It's not like you go into to forget about your life. This movie reminds you of all the beauty and hardship in life, but it also takes you on this ride, this emotional ride with these characters that you love and that you get mad at. And I feel like that feels a lot like real life to me. And I don't know, it's this, I shot it on 2perf 35 millimeter. It's meant to be a movie. It's, we'll see. I hope a lot of people go see it.
Congrats on the film, Derek. It's good to see you back. We'll talk down the road.
All right, thank you.